and welcome back to my channel. And if this is your first time here, then hi, my name is Lauren. And on my channel, we mostly talk about anything luxury, but we also discuss lifestyle and beauty. So if you're interested in any of these topics, please consider subscribing to my channel and we'll get started with the video. So in today's video, I'm going to be presenting you a list of ways to sell your designer items. Or rather, I'm going to be telling you how I sell my designer items and how things have worked out for me, how much money I've made, how fast I was able to sell them, the ways that I sell them, which platforms I use, etc. So if you're curious to find out, then please keep on watching. And before we even get to the topic of the video, I feel like I need to address this right now because I will have a billion comments of what happened to your lips, how come they look like this. Yes, I am aware that my lips look quite funny right now. I actually just got them done yesterday. I get lip fillers done every about 9 to 10 months. By the way, do let me know in the comments down below if you're interested in me doing a video about the procedures that I've gotten done over the years. There are some obvious ones, aka the lips, especially today, but then there's also some not so obvious ones. So if you're interested, please let me know in the comments down below. That'd be something that I would love to do on my channel. But yeah, I'm aware that they look funny. I'm aware that they're super swollen. They will not stay like this. It's just because they're swollen. I don't want to look like Kylie Jenner, so don't worry there. I'm not going to. It's just for the first couple of days. And then later this week, I had no time to film the video, so that's why I'm doing this today with my full-on swollen lips. So the first way to sell your designer bags, and definitely the most obvious one, is to sell them through consignment websites, such as fashionphile, therealreal, rebag. And of course, I've titled this video How to Sell Your Designer Bags, but this actually applies to, every luxury accessory that you may have, including jewelry, shoes, whatnot. It's just titled bags because, I don't know, I like bags, but it applies to every luxury good that you can think of. So this is the very obvious way, but this is actually not at all the way that I do it, simply because it is easy, that's true. On the pro side, it's easy. They send you a quote, they send you the shipping, accessories to take the bag, you just drop it at like a UPS location or whatnot. It's very easy, smooth transaction, money guaranteed, fast money. You don't have to worry about what if it doesn't sell, what if this person's not reliable. It is an actual website. Yes, they will pay you. Smooth and easy transactions, so no worries there. But really, that's not the way that I do things. I've actually never sold on therealreal or any of these consignment websites simply because the prices that they offer are ridiculously low. I don't like the fact that on these websites, you can't set your own price. That's something that's very important for me. If I'm selling my designer item, I want to be able to set my price because at a certain price, it's worth it for me to sell this item. But below a certain price, then I'd rather just keep it. Because if I'm going to be paid like, I don't know, just as an example, like $500 for a bag, then no, of course not. That's ridiculous. So that's why I don't use these websites, because you simply can't set your own price, and the prices that they quote you are super, super low. So I actually did end up selling a bag that I first got quoted $1,400, and it was the Yves Saint Laurent Sac de Jour in size small and black. So I got quoted $1,400 on fashionphile. And I was like, okay, this is ridiculously low. There's no way that this handbag is worth $1,400. And then I ended up selling it for $2,000 a different way. So I'll tell you about these different ways right now. The next option is actual physical consignment stores. So now this will only apply if you're living close or close-ish to a city, because if you live in the middle of nowhere, then that might not be a possibility. But for example, relatively speaking, close to cities, around New Jersey and like populated areas, around DC, there's a lot of these consignment stores. So it never hurts to walk in and say, I'm looking to sell this bag. How much can you give me? Now, this is something that I have tried to do. And when I say try to do, it means that I have tried unsuccessfully. So this is also not a way that I used to sell my designer stuff, but I thought that I would mention it because it perhaps seems a little bit less obvious than the online platforms. So when I was living in New Jersey, I did go physically in person to one of these consignment stores. It's called Opulent Habits. And I asked, how much can you give me for this bag? And well, at the time, the value of things was very, very different. It was for a Chanel walk, and the price that they gave me was $1,700. And for me, $1,700 for a walk was, even at the time, which wasn't yesterday, was probably like maybe 4 years ago or something. Yeah, I would say 4 years ago. Well, that's just not enough, especially with full set, with amazing condition. That's also not enough. The reason why that is because kind of like similar to these online consignment stores, they make a huge margin, and they have to, and they kind of like table on this. So it is a way, I would say it is reliable, kind of like the consignment store. It's reliable, you will definitely have your money, you will sell it fast, it's hassle-free, it's very safe. This was a super nice lady who took care of me. She walked me through the entire store, so I got to see a bunch of beautiful, beautiful bags. I got to even touch some Hermes bags. But yeah, it was unsuccessful simply because for me, the price that I was quoted was really not enough for what I had in mind. I will say though, compared to the online platforms, this is something that I would prefer, simply because you don't have to deal with shipping or shipping, delays, or taking your item to UPS, or kind of making sure that it has the right shipping label on or whatever, or tracking it or anything like this. You just go drop it at the location and you know that it's safe. So compared to the online platforms, this is what I would recommend. But I actually have two other ways that I'd like to mention, which I feel like I use all the time and I get the most money out of my items that way. So next up we have eBay, and I know this is a very common one, but this is one that I use a lot, and I think that for me it works very, very well. And the reasons for that are that I can set my own price. And that's something that I really, really, really love. It's something that's important for me. I feel like I've invested a lot of money in these pieces, and I want to be able to, let them go for a good price. I want to make sure that I'm getting some return on my investment, or I'm at least, getting my money's worth. So setting my own price is very important. Now, the downside of eBay is obviously they take a fee or a commission. But you can set your price according to that. So if you know that they're taking, I believe it's around 12%, or something like this, around that margin, then you can set your price accordingly. You can set your price, let's say for a bag, you want $2,000 in your pocket, then you're gonna set your price to, I don't know, $2,200, $2,300, so that you at least have those 2,000s in your pocket. And that's how I operate personally. So I like this because it is secure, relatively speaking. Obviously there's always, the possibility of the client disputing the quality of the item. So that has only happened to me once, and I was pretty upset about it. But normally speaking, it doesn't really happen too often, so it's pretty safe. You can set your own price. I like that a lot. Now, obviously, the downside compared to, those consignment stores, whether online or in person, is that your item may not sell fast, especially if you're setting your price to probably, the higher margin of what it's worth, and that's what I do. I always set it to the maximum that I can ask for. Your item will likely not sell fast. So, I've got items in my closet that have been on eBay for 6 months and above that still haven't sold. And it's because, well, in my mind, I'm not in a hurry to sell it. I've got space in my closet. I'm comfortable waiting. The more you wait, also with designer goods, the more they're worth, because if you no longer wear them and if they're simply in their box, you're not damaging them. But then the prices keep going up. So you will be able to sell them even sometimes for more than the asking price that you've started with. So that's kind of, something to think about also in terms of, well, if my item doesn't sell fast, then, there's at least some positive aspects of that. Another thing about eBay is the shipping. That's the tricky part for me. That's the part that I don't like is, you know, how much should I charge the buyer for shipping? So I always charge the buyer for shipping. And I always set my shipping location to domestic only, so no international shipping, because otherwise it gets out of hand. It's very complicated to figure out. So I always set it to domestic shipping, but you know, it's really tricky to figure out how much that's going to cost at the post office, depending on, you know, whether I want to add insurance. Knowing the post office, I often want to add insurance because I'm very, very concerned that they would lose like the package, and then, you know, that would be like on me. So yeah, depending on the insurance, depending on how far it's going, you know, I live in Virginia. If it's going to North Carolina, it's not going to be that much money. If it's going to Alaska, it's going to be a lot more. So that's always kind of, you know, the downside of eBay is figuring out shipping, how much it's going to cost, how to ship it, what box, to make sure that it's not damaged. Because of course, if it's a designer good, you want to make sure that it's, you know, as beautiful as possible, including the box. So I always like put a bubble wrap around the box, so you know. So eBay is, in short, convenient. You can set your own price, but you can't really be in a hurry to sell because, you know, items can take a while to sell. And then one of the other downsides is the shipping is a little iffy. By the way, do let me know in the comments down below if you have any kind of recommendations for shipping or how you deal with shipping on eBay, because I'm still a little bit iffy about that. But now let's move on to my other way to sell, and that's one of my favorite ones, and it is one that I feel like I get the most money out of my items. So my most frequent way of selling items is actually through Facebook Marketplace. I know that it may seem shady. I know that, you know, going into this, you must think like, wow, this is so unsafe. I can't believe she's doing this. This is ridiculous, but let me explain. So first of all, this, generally speaking, can only be done if you're living in like a big, you know, urban area. If you're living again in the middle of nowhere, then chances are you're not going to find someone who will buy your designer stuff. But, you know, perhaps, you never know. But for me, I've lived around New York City, I've lived around Montreal, I've lived around DC, so I've always lived in these like major cities. So luckily for me, I haven't really had that problem. So what I'll do is I will post the item on Facebook Marketplace. The advantages are that you can set your own price, so kind of like eBay, but there's no cut. So if, you know, my setting price, for example, on eBay is like $2,300 so that I can actually get $2,000 in my pocket, on Facebook Marketplace, I'll ask for $2,300 and then I'll get those $2,300 in my pocket without having to, you know, pay eBay. So that's like an amazing advantage to the Facebook Marketplace. Similarly to eBay, you have no guarantee as to when your item will sell. So oftentimes, like eBay, you know, items will sit in my closet for like 6 months or so. That's usually around, I would say, the norm. Anything below that, I would feel like I haven't priced the item correctly, that it's like too cheap. And then probably, you know, anything above that, that's when I'm considering maybe should I like lower the price, or should I take better pictures, or maybe there's something to be changed about the listing. But yeah, it takes a while, that's for sure. Now the thing is, there's no shipping. So, you know, eBay, you have to deal with shipping and you have to deal with how to do it. Here, there's no shipping. And the way that I do it is really depending on the person. I will either meet the person at my house if it's something very, very small, like, I don't know, you know, like a YSL card holder for $200, that's fine. I will meet that person at my house. If it's anything bigger than that, like a large handbag or something like this, then first of all, I will ask someone to come with me. I will ask like my mom or a friend, or preferably even a guy, to make sure that, you know, I'm safe. And then I'll meet that person at a public location. I mean, it can be, you know, as silly as like in front of like a Whole Foods or in front of a bank. Usually it's also a good idea because they often have security guards. I always ask for either cash, and then I have the person who's with me to count the cash, or Venmo or Cash App, and those transfers are instant. So that makes it easy for me to check, you know, whether or not the money has arrived. The one downside of this is that there's a lot of people who flake. That's something that doesn't happen on eBay, because once they click, technically they have to purchase the item unless it's not as described or you have returns. But personally on eBay, I don't allow returns. But yeah, on the Facebook Marketplace, there's a lot of flakes. There's a lot of people who will change their minds. There's a lot of people who won't come. And then there's also people who will come and then who will be like, oh, well, actually, I don't like it. I'm not a fan. Can I have it for $300 less? And that's something that annoys me so much. Like, honestly, I can't deal with this. I'm like, no, actually, you may not. And so that's why, you know, I set my meetings to either my own house or to a location that's super duper close for me. That's like a 5-minute drive, so that I don't waste my time. So I would never go and meet someone like in DC city center or something, which for me is like a 40-minute drive. I would never do that, because the chances of the person actually being there and taking the item is, I don't know, maybe like 60% or something. So that's why I'm like, you know. So it isn't as sure and as like certain that you will sell your item as eBay, as online consignment platforms, or as actual, you know, consignment stores. It's more iffy, but the advantages for me really kind of make it that worth it. Simply because, you know, setting your own price is amazing. You have the flexibility of not worrying about the shipping fees, and you can also up your margin thanks to the fact that there's 0 fees at all. And personally, I'm not in a hurry to sell. I mean, if I were in a hurry to sell and if I actually needed money desperately or fast, that would not be one of the ways that I would recommend. But simply for me, I'm like, well, you know, I don't really need the money. It's more because I no longer use this item. I would like to use this money to fund another purchase, but which is also not, you know, something that I need to like buy immediately. So that's where I'm like, for me, this is a really ideal way. There's lots of advantages. And as long as you do it safely, you know, that you have someone with you and that you ask for cash or Venmo or Cash App, no upfront like giving the item, or no even upfront like shipping or anything like that. Like, a lot of people will have these like scammers and will complain about these scammers on either Facebook Marketplace or these like Facebook groups for like Chanel items, for LV items. And, you know, a lot of these people will be like, oh yes, I've paid you. And then you check your like PayPal usually, or Venmo even. And it's always like a fake email and a fake, like, you actually haven't received the money. I'm not really sure how to explain it, but yeah, you don't receive the money, but you receive an email that tells you that supposedly you've received the money, but then the email actually doesn't come from like normally from PayPal. I think it's service@paypal.com, and it's another email address like something at PayPal something. Like, it's not the actual thing. So that's something that you have to be mindful about. But personally, I don't do that. And once the person is too far to actually come in person for Facebook Marketplace, I actually let go of the sale. Like, I don't do it, simply because I know that there's a lot of scammers out there. So I would recommend not to do that. I would also recommend to be very careful of those Facebook groups for like Chanel and LV and such. I personally do not sell on these because I feel like the prices are not high enough. And then I'm very wary of scammers, and I feel like, you know, since the likelihood of the person living next to you is very low, you will have to ship the item without really having the security of eBay. So then personally, yeah, I would prefer to sell on eBay. So that's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that it was informational for you in case you were looking at selling an item and didn't really know how to sell it. By the way, do let me know in the comments down below if you have any other recommendations for places where you can set your own price and you don't have to deal with crazy fees or, you know, too much shipping issues. I would be eager to find out, because I keep on selling my items. I feel like, you know, I have done a couple of these like luxury regret videos. By the way, if you're interested in seeing my most recent one, then I will go ahead and leave it in the little information link over here for you to see it. And I end up selling a lot of the items that I feature on these videos. So I'm always kind of, you know, selling. So I'd be curious to find out other ways that have no fees, set your own price, and then little shipping drama. So if you did enjoy this video, please give it a big thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you in my next one.